Hey guys, what's up? So this week is the week that everything is going to start changing in the garden. Plus, I have to show you guys the brand new project that just got done yesterday. It's out in the garden. It's so beautiful. But first, we're going to start by talking about the seedlings like we always do. Right now, my seed starting setup looks very empty. Everything is sitting outside, starting to get hardened off. And inside I have all of my ginger that didn't sprout, and then this one pepper plant that there's no more room in the trays outside, so it's just gonna live inside for a few more days. I did have a couple of ginger sprout already, but these are taking a while. I have put them on a heat mat to hopefully speed up that process now that things are warming up. And I still haven't had either of my turmeric sprout, but I'm still holding out hope that these guys are just needing a little bit more warmth to get going. I'm also soaking my hardy kiwi and grapevines, getting them ready to be planted out today, which is super exciting, especially because one of these grapevines has started just going already. It desperately needs to be outdoors, so we are going to do that today. These are the varieties I'm growing if anybody is curious. These grapes should be really tasty, but I don't think that they're very native to my area at all, so I'm not sure how well they're gonna do, but we're gonna try it out. These guys I think should do pretty darn well here. Here's where all my plants from inside have gone. You can see pretty much all my steps are filled with plants, and these ones, since they're less used to being outside, are up in the area that's going to get more shade throughout the day, so that they're not just like totally overwhelmed with full sun right away. And pretty much all of these are peppers. These ones that are super crowded, they are waiting for the cups from the tomatoes to get available, which should be very soon. I think I'll be planting tomatoes this week. Our last frost day here in upstate South Carolina is usually the first week of April. And right now the 10-day forecast looks really good. Lows at night are not going below 50. For tomatoes, I would be looking for lows to not be going below 40. So the fact that they're not even going below 50 right now is a really good sign. For peppers, I'm also looking for the lows to not be going below 50 consistently. But I don't trust that it's going to stay above 50 right now in April. So peppers are still going to wait a little bit longer to go out. Everything out here is suddenly looking so lush and pretty. Since I'll be planting tomatoes out on this trellis very soon, I will have to come through and do just a little bit of weeding. I'm probably not going to fully strip the weeds out of this area, but I'll definitely take out the grass. Grass gets pulled always, no matter what, and anything that looks like it'll be making bigger roots that'll be harder to get out, I'll take out. And then when I come through to actually plant the tomatoes, I'll pull the weeds that are in their immediate area. The garlic in this area is looking really good. I've got a row of garlic planted all along right underneath the trellis, and it'll get done right as the tomatoes are starting to get big. I've been interplanting garlic and onions with all my other plants for a couple of years now, and I think that it works really, really well because both of those things are harvested kind of midsummer-ish, and that's about the time that all those other plants are going to start taking off. So they're sharing the space pretty effectively. Down here on the second row, we have a lot more to look at. All of the lettuces are looking really great. You can't even really tell that I've been pulling off of them for salads. Oh, Kata just really wants to be exactly where I am right now. We also have the garlic and onions going up this side and a bunch of onions going up that side. This is one of those zinnias that I planted out a little early because I did not have any room for it. And you can see it definitely got a little bit of frost damage. We had a low of 33.8 recently, which is definitely too chilly for these guys, but I mean, look at that. It's not fully dead by any means, and maybe it will try to make a comeback. I guess we'll just have to see. But that was definitely the risk that I took, putting these out a little bit early. And like I said previously, these things grow so fast that losing a plant at this stage of a zinnia, it's no big deal whatsoever. All of these onions in this area are the ones that I personally planted from seed. And I'm actually starting to notice that some of them are trying to go to seed themselves. This is definitely their first year, and so them trying to go to seed is not normal or ideal. I mean, it's not super abnormal. Sometimes plants just get confused if the temperatures are too off or if they're feeling kind of unhappy. So I'm thinking it's probably the temperatures, because we've had like highs in the 80s leading in the same week to lows right around freezing. So I'm sure these guys are just absolutely confused about what is going on. But I'll probably just pull these stalks before they get too big. Just snap them off like that and hope for the best that this will keep making a bulb. Farther down the row, the Brussels sprouts are all going to seed except for that one. And you can see just such a huge difference in how the ones with aphids look versus the ones without. And the ones that haven't had aphids this whole time are just doing so well, so healthy. And I'm not really sure what has had some of them get aphids and some of them not. But we do have quite a few ladybugs running around, so I'm not too upset about that, because these plants were already pretty done anyway, and I would love to have the ladybugs in my garden. There's another little zinnia down here in between the Brussels sprouts, and that one I think did a lot better with the colder temperatures because of all these plants around it, kind of keeping it in a pocket of warm air. Here on the third row, trellises are still bare, but I think this week I'm going to start planting on them. We do have our lettuces here at the front, a ton of weeds in here. I am kind of watching this area for holy basil sprouts, because I had a huge holy basil plant here that dropped a lot of seeds. And I do see some sprouts, but none of them are basil sprouts just yet. But once it's warmer consistently, I bet those will come right up. In this section back here, the brassicas that I tried to plant out here, it didn't really work out. The timing was all off. And you can see like this one surviving one is got tons of aphids on it, so it's not very healthy at all. But the onions in this area and the couple lettuces, those are doing great. You can see I've got one spinach in the garden that has survived. Yeah, and this area is going to be full of peppers, I think, sometime next month. The fava beans down here at the end of the garden are starting to put on their beans. You can see right here, this is a bean coming on. Over here, this is a bean right here. And there's a couple more kind of in here. These are taking a lot longer to set their beans than I would have thought, but they're still looking really healthy. Here's another example of a zinnia that did not get damaged by the frost. Again, it's probably just that the temperature got low enough, barely, in some very localized places in the garden. So this one is doing good. That gamble is paying off. And then down here on the end of the fourth row, we've got some brassicas that are going to seed and some more that are being eaten by aphids. This kale that I've had here for like over a year now, I think, is finally succumbing to aphid pressure, but you know, kind of didn't even expect it to live as long as it did. Right near it, we've got this beautiful Romanesco that has gone to flower. It's looking so pretty. This one is just about to open up. And like I've been saying, even at this stage, you could easily eat these and they would be delicious. Oh no! Apparently the stem is very brittle. I guess I will be eating these for lunch. It is actually surprisingly often that I'm like fiddling around with my plants and I accidentally break something and I'm like, alright, so as we're about to go look at the raised beds, I am going to finally show you guys the finished pergola that me and my dad put in this weekend. Here it is. It is set at an angle so that it'll make more shade when the sun is coming down, because if you were to orient it like in a straight line with everything, it wouldn't block the sun in either direction. But I quite like it this way, and if we come up a little closer, you can see that it is made of metal. This is leftover decking supports from when my dad redid their deck, and it is just spray painted blue. And then the ladder up the sides is because I'm planning on growing fruit bearing vines on this, the grapes and the kiwis. I want to be able to like climb up to the top and like be able to reach to harvest from that. There will be a whole video of the process of us building this from start to finish going up on my dad's channel very soon. I don't know exactly what day yet, but I will let you know. And if you're not already following my dad's channel, it is the Red Truck Woodshop, and the link to that is always in the description. I think this week will also be the week that I plant the scarlet runner beans on this arched trellis. I think it is going to be perfectly warm enough for those to start germinating and getting going. We've got a little bit of kitty interaction over here. My neighbor's cat and my cat. I don't actually know if they're friends or not. Alright, so as we look out over at this raised bed area, this is getting very close to what my vision was for this area. Over here I do still want to find a like vintage little table and a couple of chairs to put out. And the rest of this, I do still have to kind of come up with ground cover for when the mulch finally starts breaking down. But I've started some creeping thyme down here that I'm hoping will do pretty well, and some moss for the shadier areas. You can also see the grass is protesting being killed. It is pushing up kind of through some of the edges of where I had overlapped cardboard, so I might have to come through with a little bit more cardboard and a little bit more mulch to kind of patch up the places where the grass is managing to push through. My chives are about to flower, and I bet that that is going to be so pretty. The chives have really come a long way since I first planted them last year. They're very established, and it looks like I'll have plenty to harvest from. With how windy it's been lately, like it's been very, very windy. The leaves that I was using for mulch here, you can see they've like pretty much completely blown off. So I think I'm going to have to add some other like heavier mulch here for a little while and kind of mix that in with the leaves. You would think that having them get rained on and wetted down would help, but then they just immediately dry out and then blow around. And then there's still this last raised bed that needs to be finished being filled. It's currently just got some of the extra wood chips that I had, and also a pretty thick layer of grass clippings underneath that. Over here in the berry patch, we can take a look at the blueberries. These look like they have set fruit, like you can see this one right here. Looks like a little tiny blueberry butt poking out. So looks like this is actually very successfully setting fruit, which I'm very excited about because I've had blueberries for like 2 years and never actually harvested any fruit off of them. Strawberries are also flowering pretty vigorously now. I don't think I would have any ripe fruits yet, but I think we're getting pretty close to the time that I would start seeing fruit set on these. The strawberry variety that I have, it's called Sparkle, and it's from Stark Brothers, and it's supposed to be a June bearing variety, but it actually produces over like a fairly long period of time. I wouldn't say it produces all summer, but it is definitely not like just one crop and done. It'll be like one big crop and then potentially a second smaller crop later. Blackberry flowers are starting to open up, so we are going to start seeing fruit set on the blackberries as well. Raspberries are still in the bud stage, so I think there'll be a slight delay between the blackberries and the raspberries flowering and setting fruit, which will be kind of nice. I kind of need that offset to handle all that production. In this blue raised bed that I put all these potatoes in, we are finally starting to see the little greens coming up. Again, this one had leaves and a lot of them have been blown away, so we'll have to do something else in here. So for this week's rotating segment here at the end of the garden tour, we are going to be talking about plans versus reality. So what I thought I was going to be doing and what I'm actually doing. And I'll take you guys inside for that. So if I take a look at what my plans were for the garden, things are fairly on track, I would say, except for a few key exceptions. And also, if you want to know how I plan my garden, I did do a live stream of me doing this in January, and I think that should still be up on the channel if you want to check that out. But basically, all of this stuff is summer plans. This is where things are going to go, and part of why I do it this way is so that like things like the garlic and onions that get planted early, I can kind of see how that's going to fit in with all of the summer annuals that I'm putting in, because of course those things, as you see, they're still there. I would say I'm right on track with a lot of the seed starting for the annuals. However, I could maybe push a week later on tomatoes and peppers, and I definitely just like lost my mind when I planted zinnias like at the exact same time as peppers and tomatoes. It's definitely way too early, but I mean, it might actually be paying off, because you guys saw there's several zinnias out there. Like, some of them look bad, but definitely some of them look totally fine. So I might have given myself kind of a really early start on flowers like that. And then of course the spring brassica crop did not work at all. I was far too late getting those started, and they were way too small when I had to transplant them out. When I was originally making this plan, I actually did not know that I was going to have as many raised beds as I have. So a lot of the stuff that's on here, I'm actually going to be able to put in those raised beds, like the potatoes especially. Those were ones that I always kind of struggle to fit in, but having dedicated raised beds for that, I think is going to be really perfect this year. Something else that was not in the original plan is the pergola. I definitely was just at the store, bought some grapes, and was like, where am I gonna plant these? And then started this project to create a thing to plant them on. So that is definitely brand new, on the fly, and I think it's gonna work out really well. I'm very excited about it. If I keep looking at this picture that I drew, I actually have way more onions than I expected. I did plant some from my own seeds, but I also ordered some starts from Dixondale Farms, and I have rows and rows of onions. I have rows in the raised beds. I gave some onion starts away. Like, this was not an accurate prediction of how many onions I was going to have. So I guess that's something for me to keep in mind. Although I think starting this fall, I'm going to just try to transition to a perennial onion, probably an Egyptian walking onion, so that I don't have to do this whole like planting of onions, starts and seeds and whatnot every single year. I was planning on having tomatillos in the garden this year as well. But all of my little seeds that germinated completely died immediately, which is like kind of exactly what happens to me all the time with tomatillos. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but me getting tomatillos from seed has always been a struggle. Last year I bought started plants for that, and they were very productive. And so if I want tomatillos again, I'm probably going to have to buy started plants. And mostly I grow those for my mom, because she can't have tomatoes, but she can have tomatillos. And she said that she doesn't necessarily need those this year. So I might just skip tomatillos entirely. You know, I said most everything was going according to plan, but I realized I've just listed like a ton of things that have not gone according to plan. And I guess that is kind of the perception that I have. When I'm in it, I'm like, oh yeah, like things are kind of going along the way that I expect. And then I look at what I expected 2 months ago and I'm like, oh yeah, this is different. And that's okay. Like, you guys are kind of seeing in real time how I'm changing my mind about things as circumstances change. And I do hope that that is helpful to you in some way. I think in the next few weeks, we're going to see a lot of growth in the garden. I'm going to be starting a lot of stuff, and I'll probably be changing my mind a lot over the next few weeks. So we'll talk about that in the upcoming garden tours. If you are just now catching me and you haven't seen my other garden tours, I'll leave a playlist up here for you to check out. And thank you to all of you who have watched me throughout the winter. I just super appreciate it. I appreciate your support, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you more as we get into the gardening season. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and happy gardening.